Alright, YouTube and Infamous, this is Mike again with part 2 of the rough idle and hard to start. If you watched my other video, you'll see the symptoms that I was describing when it first started happening. What I ended up doing was changing my timing chain, and this is what's left of my tension, my chain guide, which it should be about another 4 inches long. New water pump. I use the old pump and everything. I'm sorry it's hard to see. It's dark. I just want to do this update in case anyone else is experiencing the same problems. If you don't know what problems I'm referring to, you should see part 1 of the video. It's not part 1, it's just Nissan Hardbody hesitation or surges at idle. What ended up happening is when my chain was catching this tension, this guide, it was allowing slack in my chain and throwing my timing off. I think I actually jumped a tooth. I cannot be conclusive with that because I did not mark exactly to the T where my timing chain was when I first started this job. But if you watch the first video, you'll see how crazy she was acting. Now, let me go ahead and start her up. And I have a few other things I want to tell you. And she is idling beautifully. No more popping and going crazy and all. I mean, it does have a little jump to it still, but come on, it's a 1993. It's going to have a little bit of craziness to it. The motor's quiet. It does have a little mist to it still, and I know exactly what it is. The problem was after I'd done the timing chain. After I'd done the timing chain, she was still acting erratic, surging and popping and farting and bucking and everything else. What ended up happening was I put my oil pump shaft in one tooth off. I have to say this, when you do the timing chain on this truck, it is critical that you get that shaft where the D is facing about this direction at about 11:45 for the 1993. I believe on the 97 model it's more at a 12 o'clock position. I mean, when I turn that distributor, if you barely even bump that distributor, it will advance all the way from 5 degrees before top dead center all the way up to 20 just by doing this. It's that touchy and feely on the timing on this thing. You would not believe, and I did not take video of after I did the timing chain how it was running, but you would not believe the difference between how it's running now and how it was running just from me moving it over one simple tooth on the input shaft from the oil pump. So if you have any hesitation, let's say you put your timing chain together, you put it all back together and everything, and your engine's bucking and jumping and it's going crazy, and then you go down the street and you smell fuel and you stop at the light, and let's say mine ran great when I was on it, when I was on the highway and I got on and everything, it felt like I had perfect power and everything. But when I stopped at the light, that motor would go crazy. That motor would just go insane. Okay? And the fuel mileage, I burned through a quarter of a tank going about 10 miles. Now that's not right for this little truck. That's probably about 4 miles to the gallon on a truck that should get between 20 and 21 miles to the gallon for sure, maybe 19 at the worst. What ended up happening after I reset my timing today and I got my shaft where everybody on Infamous Nissan, yeah, I want to send a shout out, that's my peeps, but everybody on Infamous Nissan was telling me that it had to be around 11:45. Well, I thought I had it at 11:45, but I actually had it at 11:35. After dropping the oil pump twice and moving the shaft about 500 times, I actually seen where it moved over just enough to where it looked a little bit further to the right, to this way, than it had before. Before it was right here. I thought that was about 11:45, then it moved over about that much, and that one little degree. And I'm putting it at 12, but it was more like this now, and it was like that before. So, but the difference between there and there made my truck run like complete trash. My distributor was all the way turned clockwise as far as it could go. and I could barely get it to run decent. Now I set it today at 10 degrees before top dead center, and I can actually turn my distributor for the first time since I own this truck to advance it up to 20 degrees before top dead center. I've never been able to do that since I got this truck. I think the previous owner actually advanced the timing like that to take up the slack when the guide first broke on him. But anyway, as I'm saying, I fixed the shaft today. I started up, and it wasn't running as bad. It wasn't running nearly as bad as it was, but man, it was still running like poo. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't running as bad as it was before I re-stabbed the shaft, but it was still running like poo. So at that point, I thought it was injector sticking, or maybe my coolant temperature sensor, or maybe my throttle body, I didn't spray it good, so I sprayed my throttle body, no change. Unhooked my mass airflow sensor, it did change. I did a few other tests. Come to find out, it was nothing to do with any of that. Now, I do know that I have a bad fuel filter. My fuel filter is the original. I do know that my distributor, all the points on it were just corroded to hell and back. I do know that my point, I had to sand it a little bit to get corrosion off it. So I think my hesitation now is a gap issue between my points and my rotor. But I want to tell you, if you fire it up and it sounds great, and you got all your lines marked up, you're on top dead center, on your top dead center on #1 cylinder on compression stroke, your point is at about 1145, and when you stab your distributor, it points directly to #1 cylinder. Even if you have to maneuver your distributor a little bit, which you should still not be maxed out on your advance. If you still maxed out on how far you can advance, if you maxed out, you're still over a tooth. Trust me, please trust me. I thought I was like, nah man, I'm on time and blah 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 blah, but no, I was actually off one tooth, and it was the difference between me being completely advanced and me being able to advance another 15 degrees. Okay. Anyway, if you got all those marked up perfectly, man, and it's running good, but it's still running kind of chunky, it's running chunky and it's acting crazy still, just get in your truck, as long as it's not ticking, tacking, you know, popping, kicking, anything like that, as long as it runs good enough where, you know, when you go down the road, go and drive it for a little bit. Let everything readjust. Just go take it for a ride, open the throttle wide open a couple times. As long as you don't hear no pinging or ticking or talking or anything like you got a rod knocking or something like that, you should be okay. Because I'm going to tell you what, I took my truck for a 20-minute drive after I was done with that timing chain. 20 minutes made a world of difference. By the time I got to the little town that I live near, my truck was running perfect. My truck was idling like it was before, which is now the way it's idling now is exactly the way it was idling before, but just it was all the way advanced because of the slack in the chain. But my little truck runs great. When you're sitting inside of my truck, you feel no vibration. In fact, now my gear shifter's not shaking side to side like it used to do a little bit. It's so smooth, it's so quiet. It runs great. I mean, you have to, man. If you know you got your timing marks on point and it's still acting an ass, just get in your truck, go take it for a little 20-minute ride, maybe open it up a couple times, because I'm going to tell you what, for the first 5-10 minutes I drove my truck, I was still smelling starter fluid burning from when I cleaned my, well, not starter fluid, but throttle body cleaner and stuff that I sprayed my mass airflow sensor and all that. These little trucks use so little bit of fuel, it's going to take a while for you to burn all of the cleaners out of your throttle body and everything else that you tried to clean before you figured out, hey, I jumped a tooth on my timing. That's about all I got to say. I'm getting ate up by mosquitoes here in Louisiana, man. It's crazy with all the rain. The mosquitoes are just going stupid. But also I cleaned up my battery terminal, and I cleaned up my little ground right there on my fender well. If you can see that, I don't know. But I just want to let you know that if you do your timing, the degrees, I mean, where that backwards D sits, that backwards D, you're going to see the D is going to be sitting like this towards the front of your truck. And this is the back of the D. The back of the D is going to be ever so slightly to 1145. If it's at 1130, you way off, my friend. And your truck's going to run like complete garbage. It's 1145, you're good to go. But when you put everything back together, you bolt your oil pump in, you bolt your distributor in. If you're able to start your truck and advance or retard the timing, you're good. If you're all the way advanced, time to take it apart again, bud. You went too far over one tooth. So anyway, I just want to let people know that if you start your truck up and everything is on point, man, and your truck is still running like trash, just take it for a ride, man. Even my 93 has an ECU. I guess I had to let the ECU re-trigger all the new settings on the timing chain and the ignition timing and everything like that before it kicked in and got a grasp on everything. But now all I got to do is change my distributor, my rotor, change my fuel filter, the original fuel filter, and she should purr like a kitten. I can't wait to do that. I just got to wait till Wednesday to get those parts. Got to order them from another store. But yeah, this is Mike. I hope this helps a lot of you guys out there. Thanks for watching. Take care.